The movie begins in a burning intersection in Shibuya ravaged by monsters. A woman in a black suit named Rika struggles to her feet as an alien-like creature throws a car toward her. Luckily, her colleagues, Yoshikazu Suzuki and Kei Kurono, save her. Kurono thrusts himself toward the creature, but unfortunately gets a beating and throws him against a car. Despite Rika's attempts to stop Kurono from fighting, he stubbornly attacks the monster again. As his head gets smashed into the pavement, he successfully kills it using his X-gun. While Kurono dies, Rika and Suzuki slowly get teleported back to the game's central controls for a new round. Meanwhile, in a subway station in Osaka, 17-year-old Masaru Kato readies himself to catch a train on the way to his younger brother, Ayumu Kato, for his birthday. However, a stranger in the subway suddenly gets stabbed. When Kato tries to help the victim, he gets brutally stabbed. He wakes up in an unfamiliar room, disoriented. He frantically checks himself to see that all his stab wounds are gone. In the room, Kato notices 4 other people in which 2 of them, Reika Shimohira and Suzuki, approach him and introduce themselves. Unable to process everything that just happened, Kato begins to argue with them about what's happening. Another stranger in the room starts to join the argument as well. However, they're interrupted when Gantz, a giant black computer-like sphere in the back of the room, comes to life. To Kato's surprise, the ball begins explaining that he and all the other strangers really did die and have been resurrected. The sphere elaborates on the group's instructions to survive in their new lives. It briefs them on their target, a man named Neraridion. It explains that he's a dangerous man that needs to get killed. Without further explanation, it promptly reveals their equipment with their respective names. The 2 other strangers in the room, Joichiro Nishi and a large man, get into an argument. It immediately ends when Nishi shoots the man using a strange gun. Seconds later, the man's head explodes. Scared and dazed, Kato becomes nauseous and asks the group who they are. They dryly reply about Gantz's endless survival game. Rika also adds about the death of their leader, Kurono. Despite his confusion, Kato quickly puts on his suit while his team gets teleported to their location. The team appears in the street littered with corpses and bloodied bodies. When Rika notices they're in Osaka, Suzuki rhetorically asks why they weren't sent to Tokyo, their usual location. However, a seemingly deformed and faceless woman slowly approaching them cuts their sightseeing exploration short. While the rest of the group panics, Nishi calmly aims the gun at it and shoots, causing its head to explode after a short delay. Shocked by what he just witnessed, Kato stares at the headless corpse of the woman. As Rika and Suzuki console him, he runs to Nishi and asks for an explanation of what's happening. When Nishi threatens to shoot him, Suzuki interferes and offers to explain why. As they continue walking, Suzuki explains to Kato that the primary goal of every game is to wipe out all the monsters in the area before their timer ends, or else they'll all die in real life. Before he could take in the information, Kato and the group quickly hid as hundreds of monsters started running in their direction. However, their location gets discovered when an oversized head rolls up from behind them. They quickly run for it as the rest of the creatures chase them. After taking out some of the monsters, Suzuki and Rika promptly fall behind as they get caught up with some creatures. The large head catches up to them and threatens to flatten them. To stop it, Kato shoots but hits a car instead. Suddenly, the enlarged head leaps up in the air and lands on Kato. Luckily, Kato's suit enables him to survive. As they become helplessly cornered, Kato's group gets saved by a group of people wearing similar suits. They introduce themselves as the Osaka team, a group of expert individuals who are well experienced in Gantz's games. As they inspect Kato's poorly skilled unit, they mock his group with pity and spite. When hundreds of aliens come running their way, the Osaka team skillfully wipes them out using their blades and weapons. When Kato asks about the Osaka team's bike-like contraption, Suzuki further explains that killing can earn them points to upgrade their weapons depending on how many issues they have. He also adds that if he can score 100 points, Gantz will give him bonus options to upgrade a weapon, resurrect a dead team member, or have his memory erased and leave the game to live a normal life. Hopeful, Kato reminds himself of Ayumu, who's waiting at home for his big brother. As Nishi leaves the scene, Suzuki points out that Nishi's strategy for the games is to hide and wait for the strongest monster to reveal itself at the end of every game. Then, they hear a bunch of civilians screaming for help in the distance while getting chased by more monsters. Before he can run to help them, Reika and Suzuki pull Kato back, telling him that they're no match for the monsters. Seeing his teammates so driven by hopelessness, he decides to go solo. Suzuki lends him a few pennies to make phone calls before they go their separate ways. As Kato leaves, a womanly figure eyes him from the shadows. When Kato dials a phone number, Ayumu picks up and frustratingly asks where his big brother is. Kato fights back the tears. He tries to tell Ayumu that he's at work casually. His little brother, out of confusion, questions why he receives a call to work while monsters are running around Japan. With great effort, Kato sounds surprised and asks Ayumu why he knew about the monsters. His little brother tells him about the news reporters that broadcast much of the damage that the monsters have caused. As Ayumu is about to hang up, Kato stops him. He promises Ayumu that he will come home no matter what. After a half-hearted acknowledgement, Ayumu hangs up. After getting himself almost killed by a monster to save a few civilians, he manages to kill it successfully. At the same time, the womanly figure, a female member of the Osaka team, approaches him and introduces herself as Anzu Yamasaki. Unable to believe Kato's selfless act, she follows him despite his irritation. To test his true intentions, Anzu tells Kato about 2 seniors and a child in danger in another area. When Kato comes to rescue them, Anzu quickly realizes that the monster is too big for Kato. Despite Anzu's warning to fall back, Kato fights the creature, causing Anzu to leave the scene in frustration. However, as Anzu realizes that Kato's good-hearted nature is genuine, she goes back to help him. Unfortunately, the monster breaks Kato's gun and holds Anzu hostage. When Anzu accidentally shoots her eye gun, a glowing blue string is released and wraps around a mop that a senior civilian is holding. As the monster continues to take hold of Anzu, she drops her gun. Despite his hopeless position, Kato courageously takes the mop and attacks the monster. He manages to grab Anzu's eye gun and kills the creature, saving Anzu along with the civilians. As the duo continues to walk the streets of Osaka, they talk about their lives. Anzu finds out Kato's dead parents. He explains that he's a working student who provides for his younger brother. At the same time, Anzu shares about her 3-year-old son. Stunned, Kato realizes they're in similar situations and can't afford to die. Then, they both agree to team up to save more civilians. When they see the Osaka team in the distance killing more monsters, Kato notices how wild they are. Anzu then lists the different members of their team. She points out that the top 3 skilled members in their group are Shimaki, a 3-time bonus winner, Nobuo Miroya, a 4-time bonus winner, and the infamous Hachiro Oka, a 7-time bonus winner. Meanwhile, Reika talks to Suzuki about the death of their leader and colleague, Kurono. Remembering Kato's selfless nature, she rhetorically points out that their leader would have done the same thing. Before they could land on any decision about the matter, a massive dinosaur-like creature rises from the canal in the distance. At the same time, a vast robot approaches from the other direction. As Reika and Suzuki watch the fight between the 2 giants, they quickly get surrounded by ordinary soldiers. Thinking that Reika and Suzuki are the enemies, the soldiers threaten to shoot them. However, as usual, Kato comes to their aid and asks the soldiers to stand down. Nevertheless, the soldiers prepare to shoot until a sizable winged monster arrives at the scene. The soldiers release a frenzy of shots, but to no effect. Instead, the alien creature starts killing them off one by one. When Kato uses a light gun to bind the monster, it breaks free. Before it could attack Kato, 2 members of the Osaka team, Shimaki and Nobuo Miroya, arrive and obliterate the monster into a puddle of blood. The monster that re-emerges from the bloody pool cuts their relief of victory. Despite Nobuo's many shots at it, the monster only seems to grow stronger. Eventually, it takes Nobuo and throws him around the place. As he manages to kill the creature, he dies in its tight grasp. Before the team could wrap their heads around what just happened, Narariyan, the boss, appears as a feeble old man. As Shimaki thrusts towards him with his blade, the old man manages to dodge and survive all his attacks. Having no other options left, Shimaki tries to restrain him, thinking that he'd won physically. However, things go south when the old man swallows Shimaki as he transforms into a giant made up of nude women. As the team releases rounds of compressed energy shots from their guns, the creature manages to dodge all the attacks and corners them. Fortunately, before the creature could attack back, its arm gets mysteriously blown off. Nishi then reveals himself and reshoots the monster. However, before even a minute passes by, a new monster rises back up and injures Nishi. Kato and his team quickly escape to the canal below. At the same time, the dinosaur alien and the robot continue to fight in the middle of the city. The creature manages to knock down the giant robot. However, the fight continues as Oka reveals himself and manages to get on the creature's head. Using his weapons, he brings the creature down, killing it. As Kato and his team rest by a wall near the canal, Oka moves on to battle with Nerurian. As he manages to attack and cut the monster, he follows it up with a series of energy shots. However, as the smoke clears, it reveals Nerurian's face, this time with a built body. Despite Oka's swift cuts, Nerurian's wounds heal instantly. As the monster viciously fights back, Oka manages to surprise it and cuts Nerurian in half. Knowing that the fight is not yet over, he quickly cloaks himself and hides to find a better way to attack Nerurian. Even though Oka warns them to hide, Kato picks up Oka's blade and tries to finish off the monster. Then, a strange ball rises from Nerurian's stomach, suddenly releasing a short range of bullets around the area. Suzuki immediately shields Kato using his own body. As Suzuki struggles in agony, Nerurian's form changes into a large, bony creature. Kato angrily runs toward it, getting himself quickly knocked down. As the monster leaves the scene to find Oka, Kato tells his team that he'll try to distract the monster while Reika and Anzu use snipers to kill it. Concerned, Anzu approaches Kato and tells him to be careful. She acknowledges his bravery and encourages him. She adds that he and his brother can live with her if they survive. Surprised at her kindness, Kato accepts it and promises to do so. When Anzu leaves, Nerurian lands in front of Kato, Oka's head in hand. To give his team more time to get into position, Kato distracts the monster by asking why they're invading Japan. While Nerurian explains that he's one of the many gods, he suddenly gets shot in the arm by Anzu, followed by more shots from Reika. Then, Nerurian uses his laser eyes, causing buildings to slice in half. As Kato tries to reach for a nearby gun, he gets caught in an explosion, tearing his leg apart. As Nerurian blindly shoots more buildings, Rika nearly gets crushed by the falling debris. Nevertheless, she continues shooting the alien while Kato slowly crawls toward the gun. As Nerurian aims his laser eyes at him, Anzu saves him. Unfortunately, the alien suddenly hits his laser eyes at Anzu, cutting her body in half. Screaming in pain and grief, Kato frantically crawls towards the gun. As the monster prepares to shoot him, it gets distracted by Nishi and his bike-like machine. Nishi manages to impale him but gets himself shot with the monster's eye afterward. As Kato reaches for the gun, Rika, despite dangling from a building, shoots the monster with everything she has. As the monster aims for her, Kato releases a series of shots, ultimately killing it off before it can do more harm. As Kato crawls to Anzu's detached body, he faints while the rest of the team gets resurrected back to Gantz's room. When the team realizes that Kato isn't in Gantz's room, their hearts are mourning. Suddenly, Kato slowly reappears. Despite the team's celebration, Kato saddens when he notices that they can't see Anzu. When everyone's points get scored, Kato is given 100 points for defeating Nerurian. Given his 3 options, he battles with himself to decide whether to resurrect Anzu or return home to his brother. Ultimately, he chooses to resurrect Anzu. Kato leaves Gantz's room when he learns he can visit his brother. Meanwhile, a memory flashes from Reika and Suzuki's mind that Kato had played Gantz's games with them many times before. However, he always gets his memory wiped out every time he scores 100 points and lives a normal life. The movie ends with Rika hoping to follow in Kato's footsteps to resurrect Kurono someday as Kato finally arrives home to his brother.